So Avatar: The Last Airbender, the critically acclaimed cartoon that originally aired on Nickelodeon, is getting a second live-action adaptation, this time through Netflix, which has had some major success with live-action adaptations in the past like One Piece, but also some major flops like with Cowboy Bebop. The live-action movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan was pretty panned by fans, and while I hope for the best for the show, there are aspects of it that have me scratching my head. Real quick, I'm using a new microphone for this video, the TZ Stellar X2 Vintage. There'll be more information in the description if you want to check it out. But the company reached out to me, which was really cool of them, and so far I'm liking it a lot. But let me know what you think, I would appreciate it. But back to the main topic. A big red flag was the fact that the original creators of Avatar were involved in the project but left, citing creative differences as the reason for their departure. On top of that, the language used in this article is a bit concerning to me, where they say that traces of the original work is seen. What do they mean traces? Isn't this an adaptation of the original work? I can understand taking liberties, but this kind of sounds a little more extreme than that. One Piece has basically become the industry standard for live-action adaptations, and its creator, Ichiro Oda, was greatly involved in the project, and he had the final say on everything that happened in the show. I think having the creator be involved is important. I mean, who knows these shows better than the people who actually created them? So them leaving is pretty worrying, and there were parts shown in the trailer that made me kind of concerned. For example, the trailer shows some interesting effects and choreography coming from the benders, but then they have Azula using a bow and arrow. Azula is a prodigy at firebending. She really doesn't need a weapon at all. She can even use lightning bending, an advanced skill, something that most people can't do. So her using a weapon is out of character. Maybe the context in the show will make a lot more sense, but I do wonder why they chose to put that in the trailer. Something else that gave me pause is the fact that they're openly showing Fire Lord Ozai. The show had him be obscured in the shadows until later in the series, really building up his presence. But here there's no mystery at all. He's just there. And that's just scratching the surface. This article from Entertainment Weekly gives a deep dive into the show, and the producers behind it explain some of the changes they're making. One major change they're making that has gotten the internet talking is them taking away Sokka's sexism from early in the series. In the show, the Water Tribe is patriarchal, particularly in the Northern Water Tribe. Sokka and Katara are from the Southern Water Tribe, where all the men have left to go fight in the war, leaving Sokka as the oldest, and more or less making him the de facto man of the house, or in this case tribe. And at the beginning of the series, he has a pretty sexist attitude, often belittling Katara and other women who he sees as inferior when it comes to fighting, but it's something he grows out of on his journey across the world. It's a pretty good character arc, but it looks like the people behind this show had a problem with it. The actress playing Katara says, "I feel like we also took out the elements of how sexist Sokka was. I feel like there were a lot of moments in the original show that were iffy," and the article seems to agree with her, going on to say she's not wrong. There are entire Reddit threads about such instances, discussing how the original Sokka, prior to his character journey, would make remarks like, "Girls are better at fixing pants than guys," and "Guys are better at hunting and fighting." I think the key takeaway in this paragraph is before his character journey. That's kind of the point of a character arc, how a character starts off at one point but then changes and grows as a person. It seems like they're just removing the sexism from the show entirely, like the Northern Water Tribe, which was kind of a big deal for the first season. Originally, the Northern Water Tribe did not allow female waterbenders to fight, and could only use their bending for healing purposes, while males were the fighters. But Katara challenges this head on, and she ends up having a major impact on her culture, to the point where Master Pakku, who had been rude to her and forbade Aang from teaching her waterbending, ended up recognizing her as a master. It's a great moment, and one that Katara earned, and I don't think removing these elements from the show is necessary. Sometimes I feel like they're not comfortable giving heroes flaws, even if it's ones that they overcome, like in Sokka's case. In the article, Sokka's actor backs up Katara's actor by saying, "There are things that were redirected just because it might play a little differently in live action, and I wish they would have elaborated more on that, because what exactly about the original wouldn't work in live action?" There are other aspects of this article that make me feel like maybe they don't really get the original that much. For example, the article states, "Also playing out differently is the absence of Katara and Sokka's parents. In the animated series, their mom died when the Fire Nation invaded, and their dad is off fighting the war. While the cartoon addressed this narrative, the live-action series makes it more of a lingering trauma that affects both of the siblings. Personally, I don't see how that wasn't the case in the animated version, particularly with episodes like the Southern Raiders. Them missing their parents was a major part of their characters. Sokka risked the worst prison in the Fire Nation to try to find his dad, and they both considered leaving Aang to stay with their father. I'm not against it being a major aspect of this show, but I just don't see where they're coming from with this statement. They go on to say that Sokka is dealing with what it means to not have his father and try to maybe lead when you're not fully capable, which is also what happened in the original. It's also one of the reasons why he was sexist. He was trying to live up to the ideal that he thinks that a man should be. As the oldest boy with all of the men off to war, he sees himself as the tribe's protector, and that he needs to be the leader, but he very quickly loses to Zuko. He's not ready to be a leader or a warrior, and he grows throughout the series to the point where he is. I mean, they've obviously seen the show, but I don't understand how they could have missed these themes. The producer explains that the original was a cartoon made for kids, but I can't help but feel like he's being a little dismissive. They explain the vision behind this show by saying they intend to fill in the gaps from the original while remixing the material to fit a dramatic series format. Moments that may have occurred off-screen or characters that never met in the original are now fair game, though the spirit of the animated series remains. For example, they're actually going to show the genocide against the air nomads in this version, saying that it's important because this is what starts the 100-Year War to begin with. Personally, I would argue that it's not necessarily important to see all the gory details for themselves. Not that I'm against killing off characters on screen, but I think the way it played out in the original was fine, because what really matters is the impact that it has on the characters, the story, and the world, which in my opinion was shown pretty masterfully. Seeing the eeriness of these empty temples, and the evidence of this terrible act, Monkey Atso being surrounded by bodies of the soldiers that he was forced to slay, and Aang's reaction to it all. Sure, the cartoon doesn't actually depict this happening, and that probably is at least in part due to the age rating, but I'm not sure if actually depicting the genocide on screen is really going to change the impact at all. The show already did a great job at building up the air nomads and Monkey Atso, so it's still a real gut punch when we finally learn the fate of the air nomads. I'm just saying, sometimes less is more. Another aspect that I take issue with is them removing Aang's childlike whimsy from his character, and to be fair, it wasn't really childlike, he's literally 12. In an interview with the producer, he says that they decided to make Aang's narrative drive a little clearer, and that in the animated series he was going from place to place looking for adventures. So instead they're going to give him visions, so that he's determined to get to the Northern Water Tribe, pretty much from the get-go. First of all, he was always on the way to the Northern Water Tribe. He was looking for a waterbending master, but he was still a kid. He shouldn't have even known that he was the Avatar until he was 16. They only told him because they were desperate since they knew that there was trouble on the horizon, which unfortunately manifested in the genocide of their people, and he wants to have fun because he's a kid. Besides, the adventures along the way help flesh out the world. I worry that they don't really understand that Aang is a character who had this responsibility thrust onto him before he was ready, and he still acts like a kid, and he has to grow and mature into being a full-fledged Avatar. I don't know, these articles just aren't making me confident in the series. Hopefully the final product will be something really engaging, but those are just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Are you excited for this series? Or are you worried that they're gonna miss the point? Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching everyone, I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to the members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Nixel, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Caleb Nelson, Dakari the Professor, Equestron, Norman Sweet Cream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Soundboy00, Lucas Geis, Jay Draws, Blue Spirit, Meowsers, Sky, Gene KZ, Philip, Stutania, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Data Dine Executive, Kitsune Fiora, Tobias Weller, and Bandito Bane. Thank you all so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed this content, you can leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. I'd really appreciate the support. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.